right. I do belong to a royal family. I come from a princely state called Vankanesh.
Can you tell me a little more about how that shaped you?
My upbringing was so wholesome. My mother was a housewife. She can go up to Lewis Hamilton and say, "Beta, signature de do for my grandson." So she can relate and be relatable.
So once you moved to Baroda and you got married, I'm sure there's a lot of roles and responsibilities that come. As a royal, that might have been even more, right? How was that like for you?
I knew I was carrying another girl, and he said, "Oh, congratulations, another baby's coming." I said, she's a fairy, not an elf." He says, "That's not my problem. There's a baby coming in the house."
Hello everyone, welcome to iDare presents Breakfree. I'm Vama Baldota, the host of today's podcast. Breakfree series is a place for you to unlearn and overcome habits, patterns, or beliefs that don't serve you well or hurt your well-being. Also to instill a sense of hope and inspiration through the people that we get on our podcast. Today we have with us someone special. We have with us Radhikaraje Gaekwad, the Maharani of Baroda. Welcome.
Thank you for having me, Vama.
I'm really, really excited to speak to you today. And like, I've heard a lot of different interviews of you, and through mom, I've heard a lot about you, and I'm very excited to get to know you today as well.
I'm looking forward to it too.
Awesome. So, shall we start? We'll start. I want to know where you were brought up, where you were born. You come from a royal family as well, right?
Yes, that's right. I do belong to a royal family. I come from a princely state called Vankanesh. It's in Gujarat, not far from Rajkot. However, I was born in Bangkok. My father was with the United Nations Environment Project, and so he was posted there, and I was born there. And we came back he came back to the government services and was the municipal commissioner of Bhopal when the Bhopal gas tragedy took place. And I was a very young girl then, but I do remember it because my father was out all night and my mother was just sitting near the telephone. And I remember him coming quite exhausted the next day, and my mother trying to send me off with our family friends away even before my dad came early morning, so that to get me out of the noxious fumes, but me refusing to go, and my father showing up some point, almost 24 hours after he had gone. And he was the first to enter the Union Carbide factory at that point of time. So my childhood has had that, and at the same time, I've also grown up in my grandfather's bathroom was literally this size, and I was born after 10 years. My sister and I are 10 years apart in age, and I was quite pampered, if I may say so myself, and my doting grandparents, and growing up in a palace, and having your own horses to ride, and all of that. So it was this lovely upbringing that I had of different values and different cultures, but still so intrinsic to what I am today, and what is applicable and valid, for society today, and about which is being working class, being pragmatic, being practical, being rooted to the ground, being able to connect and relate to people, having a ear to the ground, at the same time having those values, that the importance and regard for traditions and legacies, and this great deep respect for my upbringing, and the whole family that I belong to. So I now, having grown up and having children of my own, I'm able to look at both my growing up, which was so different, disparate, but did not seem so different because it was so seamlessly, we would flow in and out of both. Yeah, I think it's made me a more complete person.
How can you tell me a little more about how that's shaped you, as a mother, obviously, but as a queen as well, and also as a woman?
Yeah, so all different roles that came in at different parts of my life, but I think in awakening has all come together. My awakening as a woman, as a mother, or as a queen. When I say queen, I would say as a position of leadership.
Yes.
queen sometimes becomes a word, unfortunately, jaded with privilege.
Yeah.
But in the olden days, it was about leadership, and that's what I want to draw from that term and that position that I see myself in. It's just an inner awakening, and I think they're just my upbringing was so wholesome. My mother was a housewife, but was able to connect with people from all walks of life. I mean, she's the kindest human being. She's someone who wraps a little present for the servant's son, and she'll make a card and give him, a 3-year-old son, but she will give him that gift with a card. So she comes from that level of kindness and compassion. At the same time, she can go up to Lewis Hamilton and say, "Beta, signature de do for my grandson." So she can relate and be relatable for people of all different generations. So I've seen that. At the same time, my father is incredibly successful and cerebral individual, and his contribution in wildlife is legendary. I mean, and he continues to stay relevant. He's written 4 books, and he's someone who's just kept himself, ahead of his times, and he's been very vocal and authentic in taking stands and walking the talk, and he's fearless. So I've seen that even within the family, where to have a voice, you have an agency, you put it out there, you stand up for what you believe in, but you don't ever forget the kindness and the compassion, and that family comes first. Yeah. So this is the upbringing that I had, and I hope that's what I can transmit on to my 2 daughters.
That's beautiful. And I think what you said is something that I've been thinking about quite a bit is the idea that like there are a lot of people who achieve a lot and are very passionate, but a lot of the passion comes from kindness towards something. And we shouldn't forget that kindness when we're on that journey as well, right? I also want to know, so when did you get married and when did you move into Baroda?
I got married at 23. I was working as a journalist with Indian Express. I was one of the first members of my family to work. I mean, from the next gen. My father was of course an IS officer. My uncle was a minister, environment minister. So the men were, yes, working and were doing well, but the women weren't. My aunts, my buas were educated at home, and they were very successful and they lived very independent lives, but they didn't go out and take up jobs, and they didn't play a public role in society in that sense, whether it was philanthropy or profession. They just managed their own lives very, very well and brought up their children well, and um, so and same with my mother's side of the family too. So I was the first in my family as a girl to the next generation to take up a job.
How was that?
It was I saw a change in my father's attitude. So from a student, when I took up my first job, there was this kind of respect and acknowledgement of me as a professional, and that thrilled me, because
Yeah.
obviously we hero worship our fathers, but if there was a wedding that we had to go for, and mama would say, "Chalo na beta, maze karenge, sabse milna hoga," and my dad would be like, "No, but she's a working person now. She can't be taking off." And that was incredible, when you're like 20, 21, that your job is taken seriously. And
Yeah.
so I saw that flip side also, and I felt, oh my god, now we are 2 working people in the house.
Yeah.
So, and it gave me a confidence which, even though today in my position I'm not able to go out and take a job. I mean, I don't there's enough ways that I'm keeping myself productive and being relevant. I am not going and doing a 9 to 5 job or earning a salary. But there is a innate confidence that if the need be, I can stand on my 2
Yeah.
feet. I can earn my bread and butter. And that came from that initial years of working and earning that very humble salary, but it's that lesson stays with you.
Yeah, and I think the confidence that financial, even like not even independence, right? Like the fact that you can earn your own money, the confidence that it can give you
Absolutely.
is a lot. And I think we work with a lot of women who also deal with abuse. And something that we notice is one of the biggest reasons that they find it so difficult to leave um, abusive relationships is because they don't know if they can sustain themselves outside, and they don't have the support, say, from their own family, or even us as a society. We don't support them enough for them to have take that courage. And so financial independence becomes super important, like you mentioned as well, right? Okay, so also I would love to know that. So once you moved to Baroda and you got married, I'm sure there's a lot of roles and responsibilities that come. And I know that it doesn't, like, not even just in a royal family, but like anytime like anyone gets married, especially for women, their life changes quite a bit. There's so many new things and so many responsibilities that come onto you. Or how, and I'm sure like as a royal that might have been even more, right? How was that like for you? Was it very easy to adjust? Did you take a while?
I think, Mama, like all girls getting married, I was 23 when I
Yeah.
got married, right? So, an arranged marriage. So, it's not like I knew my family from
Yeah.
very earlier on. New city, new surroundings, new family members. I think it was as much as an adventure or new journey as it is for most people. Yes, it was a larger home than most people have, and there was this whole wonderment of exploring that home, and it took me a long time to you know to really find my way around the house. And every time I would tell my husband, Sam, show me, show me, show me. And he says, you're not on a tourist visa. This is your home. You're a permanent resident here
Yeah.
now. Explore it and slowly. And that was the fun of it. For me, a lot of it was just because I have this great love for the arts, that for me, there were really times where I could pause and just absorb, the new spaces that I was calling home, which was lovely. Also, the family members, learning and learning to love them, was also a beautiful journey. So I think for me there was this great sense of wonderment and curiosity for my surroundings and the people that inhabited the surroundings, that um, I'm sure there were times when I was overwhelmed. Very soon into my marriage, my grandmother-in-law passed away. So there was a sudden bereavement that happened, and that was, challenging because, when there's a death, and there's, she was a very, very important individual for not only for the family but for Baroda, and everyone was there. And so it was, I was like, playing, transitioning from like a fresh bride, a new bride, to, someone who was also trying to be useful
Yeah.
in that situation, and trying to be an emotional support to my husband who had just wedded. So there was that kind of leaning into roles, but there was no one telling me what to do. And even from my parents, it wasn't coming really that this is what you need to do, or my in-laws were not. So I think I was just finding my own feet, and that just felt natural and
Yeah.
authentic. And that's how I learned the language as well. I speak Marathi now, and I'm Rajput married to a Maratha. I come from Gujarat, so my language is Gujarati. But my father-in-law and I would just spend time together, and I loved him. I loved his company, and he would just talk to me in Marathi. It's like talking English, and then suddenly he'd throw me a good Marathi sentence, and then he would just expect me to answer in Marathi, and I was just so not self-conscious
Yeah.
and did not feel judged at all, that I would just start answering, and I started speaking in Marathi in that way. There was no formal lessons or anything.
Yeah.
And so I think that's how my journey into my new home was. There was no real pressure, nobody really looking at me or telling me what to do. And that's how it was, I think. And also because it's a very large home, we have ample space for us to live our individual lives and
Yeah.
yet meet and be together. I think it's really shaped me as an individual too, because I've lived half my life as a married person
Yeah.
exactly. Today I'm 46. I've been married 23 years exactly. So I'm as much this person as I was before.
Yeah. I think something I learned from what you said is approaching it with curiosity, and that doesn't have to only be, when you're married, but even anything in life, right? Even with two people interacting, like instead of presuming, if I can approach it with curiosity and that lightness, it just makes it so much. It might not change the situation, but it might make your situation easier the way you navigate it, at least.
Absolutely, because curiosity comes from the absence of judgment.
Exactly. Yeah.
Judgment comes when you presume you know.
Yeah.
So it's very important to stay curious all your life. I think
Yeah.
that keeps the child in you alive.
I actually also want to go back to what you spoke about, like how it shaped you, right? I'm sure like there are a lot of responsibilities on you that is passed down with generations. And how do you maintain you? Like, how do you keep Radhika alive, if I may say so?
I spend a lot of time with myself. I absolutely enjoy my own company. And in many ways, if I may say so, because this is a podcast, I am my first love.
Yeah.
And I, I love the person I am. I'm absolutely happy in my own skin. I'm very proud of where I've come so far, and it spurs me to do more in that regard. And it so I'm very connected with how I feel, what I think. So there is this constant spiritual cleansing that happens. Emotional hygiene is very important to me. How I'm feeling, I must explore it. Deal with it. If there is a prejudice in my mind, if I feel there is a bit of pride coming in my mind because
Yeah.
I think I'm doing something amazing, then I'm able to catch that thought.
Yeah.
So it's very important for me to keep myself grounded. I have to be the person that I like. It's very important for me to like myself.
Yeah.
And for that, it's a continuous process to check myself. Where is it that, I should not? And for me, I'm lazy and I'm not disciplined when it comes to eating. So I can't tell you that I'm taking such good care of myself. But how I'm thinking and how I'm feeling is extremely important to me.
That's another way of nutrition itself, right? What you feed into your
Yeah.
own brain.
I mean, I can do much more. I should really be exercising every day
Yeah.
and eating less carbs. So I can't say I'm taking, my self-love is expands to everything. It's a little bit conditional, I suppose. But for me as a character, it's very important to be a good human,
Yeah.
to be a kind human. To Arrogance puts me off, and I would hate to see myself be that person. And when you are in a position like where I am, a position where you are in public and you're trying to do good work, there are people who celebrate you, and it's all well-meaning, and I've seen it get into many people's heads.
Yeah.
So it's very important for me to keep
Remind yourself.
myself grounded.
Yeah. Um, so you mentioned that, it's very normal for people to like say hype you up and things like that. And I'm sure like even you're the mother of two daughters as well, right? And I'm sure like for them as well, like they would have a lot of people talking to them or being friends with them because of their background. And I know where I grew up, I had a very similar situation as well where I felt like I couldn't make, at least I didn't realize who was friends with me for who I am versus for what my family was. And it was very difficult, it also plays a lot with your self-confidence where you feel like, are they friends with me for me or what I can provide them and stuff like that? And then you start feeling less than without your title and, all those things like that. How have you ever had to deal with that, or how do you teach your daughters to deal with that?
Yeah, I do. I am dealing with it because if I am in public,
Yeah.
I will have that uh, exodus, so to speak, or being inundated with attention, if
Yeah.
nothing else. And it's all coming from a very pure space mainly because,
Yeah.
I know my work is in charity and people see that and feel that and they come up to me with great warmth.
Yeah,
And it's not necessarily they want anything
of
from me
course.
other than a photograph or a smile. So it's not always that there is that purity of intent that you notice, but there are, of course, there are different circles that you move in, and then you become a part of the network cog.
Right.
You're perceived as
Yeah.
that, or as a social ticket, or so I'm quite aware of in what circle
Yeah.
was seen with what intent. I think now, having been married and for so many years, I've learned to be more discerning about that,
Correct.
and I really focus my energy, Mama, on meeting and inculcating relationships that are nurturing for the community and for me.
Yeah.
And when I say community, in the sense, those who I can align with to create a greater impact, and or those which create a deeper impact for me. So relationships that nurture me, and relationships that
Nurture.
collectively we can nurture and create something beautiful for society.
That's really incredible. And I know you do a lot of work in the impact space as well with Maharani Chimnabai Udyogalay, if I'm saying it right.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
So I would love to know a little bit more about what you do and how did you get about doing this?
So I'll tell you, this trust was started, Maharani Chimnabai Stree Udyogalay was started in 1914.
Okay.
And we've been working with skilling lower income women, and this is something started by the state. My mother-in-law is also been very actively involved, and it's been it's something that I've enjoyed doing because we have vocational training classes. During lockdown, I got more involved in it because I was my all my other work was not happening. Actually, the lockdown was a time of such intense pivoting for me, as in from an internal space. It gave me a much clearer vision of uh, who I was and where I wanted to go, and helped me really narrow down to what was important to me. It was also when I started the my Aspen Fellowship, and that again helped me really channel my workspace and my energy into what really mattered. And at that point of time, it really came down to if it is for the family, if it is for individual, or if it is charity. These are the areas I will focus on. I don't have time to do ribbon cutting. I don't have time to do frivolous talk. So if it is a priority as a family, if it is a priority as for my philanthropy work, or for my individual growth, only then will I take up any project.
Yeah.
So it's become very, very clear in my head, and COVID gave me that break to really re-engineer what were my priorities. So that time when I was doing working with giving dry rations and relief to people who were suffering, that's when I started really looking and evaluating who are the people today that we consider as marginalized or who need support, because we've been working with women for over 100 years, and that was a priority then. It continues to be a priority. However, today CSR and a lot of government policies take care of women empowerment, women health, women education. And I saw the numbers of students in my organization dwindle. And it was, I had a good course, I had good teachers, but I'm not getting the students, and it was frustrating. And then you realize that I don't need to run a computer course anymore, because even the government schools have computer
Yeah.
courses. Or I may have a beauty parlor course for women, but there are umpteen CSR projects which are also teaching the same. So it was again
Orient.
understanding and reconfiguring what these old institutions that have been there for so long, serving society, need to be reviewed. And that's when I started working with the LGBTQI, because I saw that these are nobody's championing their cause. CSR doesn't want to touch them. There is tokenism in
Of
most
course.
ways for the community. And interestingly, how it started was that I thought I'll start an individual cause for them, because I had ample space in my Sanstha. But I was not getting clarity from the LGBTQI community of what they want to study. So I said, okay, now I can't plan anything individual for them. Let's have them in my existing classrooms, which was the best thing that happened, Mama.
Yeah.
Because the idea is that the inclusion has to come in the classroom.
Yeah.
It
You
was
can't other
ridiculous.
them.
Yes. So it was ridiculous for me to think, because I was coming from such a novice place, to, okay, let me educate them and give them that specialized care.
Yeah.
And then they'll be,
Yeah.
ready to face the world. I said, and because they were not clear, I just said, okay, just join whatever I already have. And that is just taught me a very important lesson, that instead of othering or patronizing or creating something, the idea is create something where they feel welcome already.
Exactly. Yeah.
And also about, I never tried to propagate this in a big way. So I use social media and I use it for my organization as well. But for the causes that I've had, I've not really tried to. There's been no PR, there's been no advertising, there's been no planning
Yeah.
of how, of propagating it. It's just been so organic, and that's helped, because once you created it and then you talk about it, people don't resist it.
Yeah.
People accept it. When I started having students, in the beauty parlor who were trans, if I had announced it, I'm sure all the
Of
girls who
course.
were students or the teachers would have been up in arms.
Yeah.
But the fact that they slowly walked in and were doing waxing on each other and threading, and then they were friends. So
Yeah.
the approach on how because there it hasn't been an agenda ना मामा कि I have to show कि मैंने ये काम किया है कि मेरे
Yeah.
इतने लोग हैं. आप कर रहे हो because you want to see, you just hope it works, and you
Yeah.
try it. And um, it's incredible stuff has come out of these just innocent, half-baked ideas, like
Yeah.
putting maybe, say, a drag queen perform at a garba.
Yeah.
Rani Kohinoor. It wasn't. Now when I think of it, I said, मैं सोच क्या रही थी? It could have gone awfully wrong
Yeah.
in a religious, function, to have someone perform in drag. But I also realized that it was the purity of intent
Yeah.
and grace of some divine grace, who understands that you're trying to shake up things for a larger good.
Yeah.
uh, that's been basically, I don't have any kind of pathway or
Program.
program ki this is
Huh.
this aisa karna hai. So it's all very very fluid in my head. In fact,
And
it's
I think
very
that's why
fluid.
it's so beautiful also. Like there's so much humility and like you're not what I'm seeing is also like you're not afraid to make that mistake.
Yeah.
Which is a very big thing that I know that like when we also work in impact, we're constantly thinking, oh, is this gonna like push someone the wrong way? Will we get cancelled for this? Or there are people in just normal life who don't want to stand up for somebody because they're worried what backlash they'll get, or if they're worried that like I don't want to say anything because I don't want to say something wrong.
Yeah.
We're not approaching it with that curiosity and with the fact that it's okay if you're wrong, but you're trying, and that's what's important.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not about, I'm not looking, I mean, I want to have impact, but it's not like I'm sitting and saying, oh, इस महीने खाली 2 लोग को impact हुआ, ये हुआ.
Yeah.
It's, I mean, there's a larger vision, and it is going to, you just have to be patient, you have to believe in it, and
Yeah.
just keep working slowly at it.
That's lovely. And I know that you also work with the LGBTQI community for a cafe called Gazra.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit more?
Yeah, so it's one of my favorite places in the world now, and it completely reflects who I am as an individual, and it's come to be like that. It's a room in the Sansthan Maharani Chimnabai Stree Udyogalay, and it's named Gazra for 2 reasons. Firstly, that was the maiden name of Maharani Chimnabai, who started the Sanstha,
Yeah.
and who it's named after. And that was so it's acknowledging the girl that she was before she became a Maharani. Her name was changed
Yeah.
after she got married. So acknowledging the girl that she was before that. And secondly, because Gazra has so many different flowers coming together to create something beautiful. So it's an inclusive cafe. It's about inclusion, and we have, of course, the LGBTQI. We have HIV positive. We have so-called untouchable.
Yeah.
We have women, widowed women, single women, um, tribal people. So it's really a place for anyone who feels marginalized.
Yeah.
It's just giving a platform and a livelihood of dignity to those who are feeling, separated from society. And I feel food is a wonderful way to connect.
Yeah.
The same people can be given jobs at a petrol pump, but when you go to eat, you sit, you enjoy company, you're in a good mood, you interact with people, and the idea is that people like you and me, cisgendered people, interact with people from the LGBTQ community and others, um, and feel a connection. And from disabled too, we have products being made by disabled. The entire decor of the cafe is old textiles that I've collected over the years, old utensils from our home, old photographs from our archives. So it's craft, culture, cuisine, cause, community. So everything that I really, really believe in is embodied in that space.
That is really, really beautiful. Yeah. And I think what also stands out is like the fact that you get to know them on a more human level and not like because of their identity. I think,
Absolutely. I think it's, and if you walk into that space, there is no rainbow flags, there's no brandishing of
exactly.
anything. The
Yeah.
idea is to normalize. I mean, I don't have to be waving a flag that I'm a woman. And say, same for the community. The idea is you interact and you have good food, good quality of service, authentic Maharashtrian and Gujarati food as we serve. And it's just to enjoy that space and the
Yeah.
people who inhabit it.
I love how matter of fact it is for you. And I think that's the key, right? The normalization that you're doing. But I also understand that, like, taking history in account and everything, right? And I don't know how it might be for a royal, but I know even just in society, working with these communities, like for example, HIV positive communities or the LGBTQI communities, there's a lot of othering that happens for you as well. And there might not be a lot of backlash towards you for working in those communities. Did you ever face that? How were you ever scared of it at all? That, like, how would people perceive you for working with these communities? And was that ever something that like bothered you or?
No, it didn't. You see, I'm not very structured in my work. So it's everything is quite scattered in the scheme of things, and I
Yeah.
wish I was more efficient and structured. But then it has its good
Yeah.
points like this because you haven't thought through everything. You
Correct.
just you do it with purity of intention, and you put your all your energy into creating it, and it is a risk, and I was aware that it would be a risk, but um, I think it's there. I mean, now I can, I said, in hindsight, I could think of all the things that could go awfully wrong. And I have had flack for, I've received flack for, say, flagging a pride parade and things like that. But never for the cafe because I think people were curious to come and see it. And when they saw that it's really respectfully engaging people, and it's
Yeah.
nothing is trying to rub your face into anything. It's the intention is to very peacefully change people's minds
Yeah.
without really doing a dharna. I think those are the
Interesting.
real changes that can happen, and I can see it in my own staff and my team. People who did not want to be associated with this cause to suddenly, not suddenly, but over time, being in the kitchen, helping or taking full charge and ownership, and going for dinner outings with the
Yeah.
community. So that transformation has come, and it's this trickle down is incredible. So I'll give you an instance when the cafe was opened, I had to do for the FSSAI, we need to do blood tests of all the staff for the
Yeah.
certification, and two tested HIV positive. And it was still the early days when I was working with the community, so I hadn't foreseen that. You see,
Yeah.
that's what I mean. I haven't thought through everything. and and I really didn't know what to do at that point of time. So I said, okay, for 2 days, I'm giving you off and let me think of how to work this because I didn't know how the other staff would react, whether it was safe to have them in a space where there's cutting and chopping, so I was quite green in that area. And then, of course, I spoke with my lawyer friend to understand how it works, and also before that, even the people who work with HIV to understand, is it transmissible, and how to best.
Yeah, because there's a lot of myths around it also.
Exactly. And while I was figuring that out, the staff came up. The remaining staff came up and said that we have kind of guessed that this may be the case,
Yeah.
because the report may have, between them circulated, even though we had kept it completely private. And we just want to say that please don't throw them out. We want to continue working with them. Just teach us how we can be safe. And that was such a learning
Yeah.
for me. So because they had worked for a considerable time before the blood test, when by that time there was a friendship forged. So if you meet as individuals,
Yeah.
you know that, and you get to know each other, there is going to be that compassion and empathy that emerges. It's when you are coming from a space of I know you as so and so, and I'm not sure I like you, and I'm going to maintain my
Yeah.
distance. So if I'd brought them on as HIV positive, maybe I would have had resistance. But
Yeah.
because I'd already worked together, and then it was discovered to them. So I've learned so much about human, temperaments and how people think. This has been an incredible journey for me.
Yeah. What is next for you in this journey?
I think we've already started, and what I'm very excited about is sponsoring the gender reassignment surgeries, or alignment surgeries for the trans community. This month we will be having our first such
Wow.
surgery, which we've sponsored for someone, and that I'm very excited about. It is from the proceeds of the Gazra Cafe. And the Gazra project, which is funded by the Gazra Cafe, is such that we aid people have that surgery, which is a lifelong desire for many,
Yeah.
and many resort to sex work and other exploitative genres of work to be able to raise funds to do it, because they never get the family support.
Of course.
So that is one thing which we are doing. We are also in the process of evolving something called the Sweekarmi app, which is going to be like the yellow pages for the community. It will align cisgendered people with the community as well as volunteers, or even sponsors and mentors, but at the same time, um, put in everything that the community would require, say like legal aid. Who are the lawyers who understand
Correct.
this space, um, hospitals that are LGBTQI friendly, mental health. That is a key area for us, because a lot of them struggle with mental health, and it's just not explored. How there is the suicide rate is very high within the community, but the family will never admit to why.
Of course.
So these are issues, but mental health is one big thrust. They're creating these yellow pages for them, where they get authentic information on all these
Yeah.
resources, and the surgeries. This is one key area for the LGBTQI we are working on. For the women's sector, we are looking at continuing to do the training the women to drive. Nari
Yeah.
Ki Savari, we've done it for school vans, domestic help to also learn to drive, especially for senior citizens and homes where there are children, to reduce instances of sexual abuse and violence, food delivery, and so forth. That is one area. And for the artisans, continue to work with the artisans to give them a platform where they can directly sell to the end consumer, bring in design intervention to allow them to make products that are more relevant,
Yeah.
and basically sensitize people in the sector and lives of marginalized communities like the LGBTQI women, of course, and the artisans. So this is one big area of my work. The other is, of course, our museum, Maharaja Fateh Singh Museum, where we have the Raja Ravi Varmas. So we're in the process of documenting everything in the palace, the Lakshmi Vilas Palace. And we plan to now expand the museum, and a lot of the objects from the palace will we look at now moving into the museum. So that recuration
Wow.
and expansion is another big project.
That seems like a lot of amazing work that you're doing. And I love that, like, a lot of times it's something I dealt with early on is like I was very ashamed of my privilege. Only until I realized that I think like it was given to me so that I could do something with it, right?
Absolutely.
And I
Absolutely.
think we forget that we all have a different type of privilege. Some might have the privilege of gender, or some might have the privilege of money, or whatever it is. But we all have privileges in a different way that we can actually use to do good. And we might not have the resources to do like big projects, but there's always going to be something that from our end we can do. What is something you'd like to tell people like who are want to do good but don't know how to, or don't have like financial resources to?
I think it's always helps to align with people like yourself. So I think the power of community is
Yeah,
indescribable. It is does not have to be a financial resource only.
exactly.
It's also, the entire group of women I work with, most of them are housewives. So it's, and we're creating amazing, amazing impact with our
Yeah,
Garbal or with our Gazra Cafe, or, so it just comes, I mean, it's about bringing the right group, coming together with the right people.
yeah,
And that is a huge, huge resource. So align yourself to an NGO that is already doing good work. Everything doesn't have to be done individually and
right.
independently. I think that will be really add meaning to one's life.
Yeah. Okay, I want to shift gears a little bit and talk to you about parenting. And I mean, I've met both your daughters before, and they're both so lovely. Are they actually at all interested? And I know they're young, but are they interested in taking this kind of work forward? Is it something that you've had a conversation with them, or is it mandatory for them to do so? How do you navigate that?
So I've told them very clearly, and this is not a conversation that they have initiated. It's very much my something that I have felt the need to speak to them, that what inheritance of legacy they have
Yeah,
from the forefathers. It is their responsibility to preserve and conserve. They are custodians of it, and they must ensure that. I mean, we will ensure it as best as we can, for that they have an easier job of taking it forward. So whether it is making a trust, or converting the palace into a hotel so that the upkeep is taken
yeah,
care of. So both Samarjit and I are trying our best to make it as as effortless for them. But of course, it is a huge task ahead, and there is the legacy factor. There is this beautiful institution um, uh, of you know of passing down this generationally, but also the all the philanthropy we do, all the and the beautiful home that is there. They have to be preserved for generations to come.
yeah,
And um, there is it so it becomes almost like a role of national importance, because
yeah.
you are preserving something which is a tradition, which is culture, and it is irreplaceable. So it's not from any monetary or commercial value, but just the intangible value of what these institutions stand
Of
for.
course.
So it is their responsibility, and they know it, that if they have the privileges, they also have the responsibility of preserving that. But anything that I have started, or my husband has started, like the golf course. Sam has started an entire sporting facilities, and it's the best that we have in that area. Is up to them to carry forward, or with the Lakshmi Vilas Palace Heritage Garbas. It's a beautiful, Garba 9 days festivities which I have created in the last 5 years, and it's our annual fundraiser for our charity. But it's up to them; they don't need to take it forward.
Right.
So I think I've told them very clearly that what we have brought in as our passion is
Yeah.
is is entirely up to them to not carry forward.
Yeah. And they obviously get to explore what they would be interested in.
Absolutely. But I have noticed, Mama, that children are exposed to what they are from an early age, and
Yeah.
and it and they imbibe it, even if they want show that they were resisting it. I see it with my girls.
Yeah. I know you have two girls, and I'm not sure how it would be in your family, but I know in a lot of royal families, I forget royal families, even in normal families, that is seen as something that's not ideal, and like, they'd want at least one boy to carry forward the family name, and
Absolutely.
like you've heard things like only boys will take care of the kids, the girls are like paraya dhan chale jayenge,
Yeah.
and all of that. Like, was that ever a consideration or a conversation around your household?
So, belonging to a traditional royal family myself, coming from one, it was a conversation I've had very often with my mother, my masis, my sister. From my in laws, not once. So, my mother in law or my father-in-law, I remember when I was telling, I knew I was carrying another girl, and he said, "Oh, congratulations, another baby's coming." I said, she's a fairy, not an elf." He says, "That's not my problem. There's a baby coming in the
Yeah.
house." So that was the whole, the whole attitude that I've always felt from my in-laws. My mother was, of course, always concerned, beta, kar lo, ek aur kar lo. You had healthy children. Why don't you try again? And to be honest, I did, because I felt that do I want the family tree? Because that was my concept. Even
Right.
should I have the family tree stop at me? And I went to Thailand and I tried the treatment to have a boy. I actually did that, and it wrecked me inside, because all those hormones are terrible, and it takes you months to your body
Of
to
course.
get rid of them. And I mean, I had two failed processes. And I sat down with, I mean, I was close to 40. I mean, I was past 40 by then, because the idea, I mean, I was having such a good time raising my two girls. I was in no rush. And like I said, there was no pressure. So it was, when I went for that, it was, I was in a later stage of my life. And I remember sitting down my older daughter and telling her, "Look, I've tried this, and I'm really not interested in doing this, and I'm letting you know that uh, they're not going to be trying any more babies. So you will have to take this forward." And she turns around and tells me, "Oh, Mama, I thought you will adopt." And it was like a slap on my face. I said, if my child, who I'm raising to be this liberated, woke girl, and I'm trying to lead by example by doing all this work, is thinks that she is replaceable
Yeah.
just by a boy, I would adopt. And
How was that for you?
I was like, oh my God. And that just kind of made me dig my heels in and said that this has to change. No child should feel that she is replaceable just because of her gender,
Yeah.
and that was a big one for me. And I realized that this is the purpose of my life, that it is to give the woman an equal opportunity, and it's what I believe in, and I'm doing it in my organizations, right? So this is the charity work I'm doing about skilling women, empowering women. I'm talking about it, and at the same time I was feeling this very individual pressure. Nobody is bringing it on
Yeah.
to me, but okay, let me, because if I have the resources, let me try and have a child. And and this just kind of the penny just dropped, and I said, this is my purpose of life, that I have two beautiful girls. And I mean, I have not at any point made them feel that they are insufficient, and they aren't. And this has to change, and it has to change with me.
Yeah.
And my husband has always been supportive. He too didn't want anyway. He is very happy with his two girls. It was just me. So
Yeah.
actually, this was my evolving
Yeah.
through this process.
You know, firstly, thank you so much for sharing that. Like, I know it's not easy to talk about it. But also, I think something I'm just learning from you throughout our conversation has been how open and like just like open and free you are about accepting like that you make a mistake. And it's, and at your position, I can't even imagine how hard it is, because they're like eyes at you, looking at you, waiting for the hat to drop. But you're so open and you accept with so much grace, and it's such a big learning, because I'm sure we all have internalized like patriarchy in us, like, or whatever it is, right? That self doubt and everything, and just to catch yourself and be like, yeah, I have it, but now I can change it, and the cycle stops with me, is such a powerful and a brave step to take, and I can't commend you enough for it.
Thank you.
Like, honestly, like, it's really a big learning for me as well, because I'm very self-conscious as a person, and to just like see the ease you just and the grace you come in with, it's really incredible.
Thank you.
With that, I think we're coming towards the end of the podcast, and something we do with everybody is we ask them their iDare moment. And iDare is the name of our organization, and the idea behind it was the whole journey, right, of mental health, relationships, abuse. Seems like it is supposed to like take care of you and stuff, but it takes a lot of courage, and that's what we wanted to talk about. Like, it's not the absence of fear, but it's the saying that like I dare to do this. And also we ask all the guests on our podcast what is their I dare moment where it felt like things were against them and against or the odds were against them, but they managed to persevere through.
For me, it was 2019, and it was the first time we did our Garba. It was a huge cultural, religious, social event that takes place. Baroda is unique in its Garbas. We have community Garbas where we have about 40 to 50,000 people dancing together over 9 days. And that was the first time my husband and I decided to organize a Garba. And and it was a very, very daunting task to navigate through that, and that really gave me a different level of confidence in myself and the ability to listen to my inner voice and lean into my intuition. That was the first time, and it gave me an opening to understanding the the feminine energy. And I'm trying to keep religion out of it. I'm not a religious person, I'm a spiritual person. But those 9 days and working towards creating an event which celebrates the divine feminine brought so much grounding and clarity to me, um, and mobilized me in a way that I didn't think I was capable of.
Yeah.
About being able to connect with people and create a community of women, actually, entirely women, uh, who I could work with and who along with me could create something much larger than us.
Right.
Women of my age group, women who were just mothers of my children's friends, who I didn't know beyond a hi or hello at at a PTA, perhaps. And there we were all in this sort of very high stress crisis situation because it was pouring. You're getting permissions. It's a
A lot of
completely
things, yeah.
new domain which we didn't know what really would entail, and that that kind of propelled me to really learn to take risks, to be able to articulate what I need, to be able to clearly understand what I needed,
Yeah.
and to lose the fear of failure,
Yeah.
because I was so close to failing that you've seen the worst case scenario and then you're like, all right, is it really that bad? And from there, I was able to understand where my true strength lies,
Yeah.
which is about working with communities, to be able to bring people together, to have a leadership which scales different age groups and stratas, and to believe in myself. So that came from, it was a catalyst, but there was a grace of Ma. When I say Ma, the divine feminine, there was a very, very nurturing, mobilizing energy that kind of just connected with me and
Yeah.
has stayed with me. And you may call it an inner voice or divine grace, but there is something which,
Yeah.
feeds that.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And thank you so much for the entire conversation that you had with me. I know I learned a lot, and I'm sure everyone hearing this also and watching this also did. Thank you again.
Thank
I'm
you for
really,
having me,
really
Mama.
grateful that you were here today.
Me too.